across parts of England and Wales. Some poor travelling conditions if you are travelling overnight tonight. But behind it does turn a little bit drier with some clear skies, but also the risk of a few showers. But for all, it is a mild night. Temperatures in the south not much lower than 10 or 11 degrees. So into Sunday morning, we've still got the rain across the southeast. That will gradually clear towards the continent as we head towards lunchtime, and for many, it's a much drier and brighter day. Still the risk of a few showers around, but in between there'll be plenty of sunny spells, and for all of us it's going to be another mild day. Temperatures in the south potentially reaching 15 or 16 degrees. Having a look at Monday, another spell of rain working its way across the country. Either side, we will see some drier and brighter weather, especially as we go into the afternoon. Plenty of sunny spells developing across the country, but we will then see thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain arriving later across western Scotland. And that changeable theme continues into Tuesday and Wednesday, but all the time, for all of us, temperatures staying by day into double figures.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
So the highway code was amended recently. Passed me by, but anyway, a new poll suggests this has made no difference to the safety of road users, and I could believe that.
Yeah, there was an awful crash in London, wasn't there? A bus and a pedestrian yesterday.
Fatality.
So we're asking, is the highway code fit for purpose, or should we just scrap it altogether? That's our debate this morning, and we're joined by Danny Kelly. She argues highways are not fit for purpose, and cycling instructor Anna Hughes thinks they are. Good morning to you both.
You see, Anna, I think it's a good thing. I think the highway code is a good thing. I just don't think that any of us pay any attention to it, or we should all be tested on it quite regularly, I would have thought. We should have revision courses in it.
Yeah, I think you just summed it up, Eamon, by saying the changes passed you by. I actually asked a few of my fellow cyclists and pedestrians, what is classified as vulnerable road users, about this very thing. I said, has the new highway code made things safer for you? And most people said, not at all. Drivers don't know what it is. They don't know what the changes are. They probably don't know what the rules are to start with. And as you've just said, doing refreshers is a really good idea. It's a bit bizarre that we're given a license to operate this quite dangerous machinery, and then we're never tested again, and especially not on the highway code, which is, especially when it changes, why wouldn't we be retested on that or have to do refresher courses on it? You know, there are conflicts on the road, there are fatalities. It makes sense to be aware of what the highway code says, because it is there to keep us safe.
Yeah, and Danny Kelly, when I think back, I think it was 1999 I passed my driving test. Hardly any bikes on the road then, to be honest, probably virtually none.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Hello there, coming up on this Saturday Night Showdown, a child pride parade in Spain has 9-year-olds dressed in lingerie and fetish gear dancing for adults. Who organised this parade? And also, what's Spanish for Jesus, get the wood chipper? And One of the world's most iconic paintings, Michelangelo's creation of Adam, is now racist white supremacist patriarchy, according to a progressive academic. Does anyone else get the feeling that these people are running out of things to call racist? And the trans assistant secretary of health in the USA, Rachel Levine, has said that climate change is racist. No, I'm not playing woke bingo. This is the news, and this is your Saturday Night Showdown. Discussing all of tonight's topics, my brilliant panel of Susie Kennedy, Nicholas DeSanto and Jonathan Cogan swaying over there. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good evening from the GB newsroom. It's just gone 8 o'clock. The headlines this hour, and we start with the story leading the news today that the family of jailed politician Alexei Navalny have said that his body is purposely being withheld by Russia so that authorities there can cover their tracks. Following his death in an Arctic jail, hundreds of people across Russia have been detained for attending memorial events. If you're watching on television, you can see their footage coming from Moscow showing people being led away by police officers and being forced into police vans. It comes as President Putin faces increasing condemnation from the US, the EU and the UK, among others. The Kremlin, though, says that the West's reaction is unacceptable and they've described it as absolutely rabid. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is among those who've laid blame on the Russian leader, calling Putin a thug who he says must be stopped.
After the murder of Alexei Navalny, it's absurd to perceive Putin as a supposedly legitimate head of a Russian state. And he is a thug who maintains power through corruption and violence, coming to his so-called inauguration, shaking his hand, considering him an equal means to disdain the very nature of political power.
Volodymyr Zelensky there speaking at the Munich Security Conference, where he also today told G7 leaders that there is a shortage of long-range weapons that's hampering his fight against Russian forces. Joining ministers there for a minute's silence earlier, Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron said that the UK will stand by Ukraine, a sentiment that was echoed by Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer. President Zelensky also told leaders there's an urgent need for more Western support, while Italy's foreign minister said Ukraine's membership of the EU and then NATO was inevitable. Tens of thousands of protesters have been marching through the Irish, the Scottish and English capitals today in major demonstrations against the war in Gaza. In London, some violence did break out earlier between demonstrators and police, according to reports at the scene earlier today. 12 people, we understand, have now been arrested for a string of alleged offences, including hate-related placards, assaults on police officers, and also for refusing to remove their face coverings. Former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn was among those addressing the crowds today in the capital at the now 14th national demonstration. He said there'll be many more until it takes, and as it takes, until there is a ceasefire. Well, near the protests taking place in Glasgow today, Scottish Labour backed calls for a ceasefire in Gaza on the second day of its party conference. The motion passed unopposed, but it puts the party at odds with Westminster colleagues, with Sir Keir Starmer stopping short of calling for a ceasefire. He says instead that he wants to see a sustainable end to the war. In other news, one person has been charged today with assisting illegal entry to the UK following the discovery you may have heard about of migrants being found in the back of a freezer lorry in East Sussex yesterday. The Home Office hasn't named the person, though, that they have charged. It's after a major incident was sparked yesterday, prompting large responses from emergency services at New Haven's ferry port. 6 people, we understand, were taken to hospital following that incident. Police, though, say there were no deaths reported and they are continuing their investigations. A third of small boat arrivals since 2018 have taken place while Rishi Sunak was Prime Minister. That's according to new analysis from the Labour Party. It comes after 52 people reportedly crossed the English Channel by small boat yesterday, meaning there have been just over 38,500 arrivals since Mr Sunak became Prime Minister. Labour says it's proof the government's focus on its Rwanda plan isn't enough to solve the crisis, but the government insists its policies are working, with the number of crossings last year, they say, down more than a third compared to the previous year. And finally, farmers in Kent have been taking a stand against cheap imports today by blockading a Tesco supermarket in Dorset with around 20 tractors. They've been protesting to highlight what they fear could be a threat to Britain's food security. The British farmers say they can't compete with cheap foreign imports, and they say unless something is done, there's a risk of empty supermarket shelves in the future. For the latest stories, you can sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen, or of course go to our website gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam, and welcome to the Saturday Night Showdown. Now, London Mayor Sadiq Khan has splurged millions of pounds to deal with the biggest problem facing this country's capital. Is it soaring violent crime, anti-Semitic mobs roaming the streets, or an insane lack of housing that's led to people renting out tents in living rooms? No, Sadiq Khan has spent £6.3 million of taxpayers' money to give some trendy names to train lines. Transport for London paid swanky branding agency DNCO 6 figures to conduct creative community engagement with underrepresented groups to explore decolonisation and queer histories over 5 months of naming research. The agency website says, "We started by riding the entire network, getting a sense of the line personalities and the communities they serve. It also gave us the chance to conduct over 150 customer intercepts, hearing from everyday Londoners about what makes the Overground special. We quickly learned about the network's low cognitive load. Its lighter, cooler, quieter journeys mean that the Overground is often preferred by vulnerable groups and those with neurodivergent needs. We also had the privilege of interviewing leading historians, academics and transport specialists, delving into topics such as LGBTQ+ histories, East End migration and the fascinating world of London slang and linguistics." London slang? I think they're telling porcupines, because after all that Jack and Dannying around, the names they came up with are pony and trap, and there's no hint of indigenous Cockney culture. They came up with names like the Lioness line, the Windrush line, the Mildmay line and the Suffragette line, which celebrate women's football, women's rights, an AIDS hospital and the boat that brought people from the Caribbean to the UK. And hilariously, the names they chose aren't as woke as Sadiq hopes. Lots of suffragettes, such as Mary Richardson, moved on to support the British Union of Fascists. The Lioness line is a gendered word, which is due to be retired soon, like the word actress. Many of the Windrush generation were wrongly deported by our hopeless government, who let acid attackers stay in the country and instead deport hard-working Caribbean people who fully integrated with British society. £6.3 million well spent, Sadiq. Well done. A consultee said, "More than just tracks and stations, the Mildmay line symbolises a journey of acceptance, love and belonging, a vibrant thread connecting our collective past, present and future." Listen, mate, the Mildmay line is just a train that takes you from one crappy part of London that smells of weed to another crappy part of London that smells of weed. Train lines should just tell you where the train goes. The Bakerloo line goes between Baker Street and Waterloo. The Hammersmith and City line goes between, can you guess, Hammersmith and the City. The Victoria line, where do you think that goes? That's right, Victoria. How's anyone supposed to know where they're going to get to when they get on Sadiq's Tampax line or the Wakanda Forever line? They should have let the public decide these names. For no money whatsoever, we could have had better names like Tubey McTubeface. In fact, I came up with better names on the train in this afternoon. We could have a missing acid attacker line. Will he pop up at one of the stations and spray chemicals in your face? Who knows? It's all part of the fun of living in Sadiq Khan's London. We could have a Hamas chief given a council house line in celebration of taxpayers' money spent by Labour councils to subsidise international terrorism. We could have the state overreach line, where police will arrest you for silently praying in your seat or putting a poster on your door. We could have a Mizzy line, where you get threatened with violence while being filmed for TikTok by some kid who doesn't know who his dad is. We could also have a blatant anti-Semitism line, rammed with uninformed woke people and Islamists chanting for the extermination of Jews without any repercussions from Sadiq's police force. The Guardian has come out to defend the new names, saying that £6.3 million is nothing. Nothing. Socialists are always very generous when they're spending other people's money, aren't they? £6.3 million might be an acceptable amount to spend on something useful like kidney dialysis machines, but it's a hell of a lot of money to spend on pointless virtue signalling, especially when London's transport system has a £500 million shortfall. For all the talk of underrepresented groups, these seem to be the only groups allowed any representation. If Sadiq really wanted to elevate marginalised groups, he'd have a gammon line, and it would take you to a better place than his London. Anyway, I'm joined tonight by three of the best comedians in the business. We've got Susie Kennedy, Nicholas DeSanto, and Jonathan Cogan. Now, Susie, you're a Londoner, so start with you first.
I just thought it was funny. I thought you said the Jack and Danny line, which I just think would be brilliant, because only Londoners would get what we mean by the Jack and Danny line.
Yeah.
And they'd just be like, excuse me, the Jack and Danny line. You're like, it's over there, right? But also I'm thinking, like, you've got suffragette, you're calling it woke.
Yeah.
But the suffragettes would be cancelled now. Like, if they could call that the J.K. Rowling line, they'd go mad. But J.K. Rowling is a suffragette. She fights for women's rights. So
the Hogwarts Express, they could call it.
The turf train. The turf train on the suffragette line.
The turf train.
The turf train.
On
Terminal turf.
London's overground. Do you think Sadiq would allow that?
No, but it's just called it the suffragette. I mean, does he know what the suffragettes were about?
Well, that's the thing. He doesn't seem to have looked into the history of these supposedly woke names at all. Nicholas, you're not a woke. In fact, you're famously an anti-woke comedian.
Exactly. I'm the exception, so much so that I make it to GBNews. But as some people on Twitter suggested, this could have been, or some of these lines could have been named, this is the end line, we hate you line, immigrate line, because Sadiq Khan has, him and his allies have changed London demographically beyond recognition.
Yeah.
They can do anything to us.
Well, they let you in for a start. So
pardon?
They let you in for a start.
Yeah, well, thanks for the jab, but it's all right. The thing is, there will be no election repercussions because they have figured out London is like California now. They will be in power forever. So they've decided to taunt us, as The Guardian acknowledged it, I think, in one of their articles.
Yeah.
And it's always very sad and painful to be goaded and taunted by the infrastructure, which is supposed to be something for everyone and something to be apolitical. But at this point, our expectations are so low. I'm just happy we haven't ended up with George Floyd line or something to that effect. But again, the Lioness lines, they lost the final.
Yeah.
Okay, it could have been. It is still an achievement in that territory. But what about the Three Lions? Because they lost the men's Euro final, and in competitive terms, that is a much bigger achievement. So what happened? Again, this is part of the. And I do watch. I know what you have strong opinions on this. I'm gonna make a confession. I do watch women's football when Italy are playing, but people also watch their kids playing
football.
football.
The volleyball. So.
Who doesn't? The beach volleyball, okay? But the thing is, it has become a sacrament of the state religion. Thou shalt play volleyball if you are a woman, and football if you're a woman, and thou shalt love women's football if you are a man.
So do you think, as this sort of religious thing, that's why it's not much fun to watch? Because you're not supposed to enjoy religion. It's supposed to be a penance. You know what I mean? Sitting on a hard pew on a Sunday and then watching women's football as well.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help. But when you think that, why? Okay, you want to encourage women to play sports, that's fine. But why such a vehemence and vicious ideological drive to sponsor and to push for women's football, among other things?
Yeah.
And one more thing, we know that in London, a favorite pastime or mental sport of Londoners is fantasizing and speculating about their house prices. And who can blame that?
Yeah.
Blame them for that. But imagine if you have the misfortune of having a house which is now going to be associated with the AIDS line or the stabbing line and all these this wokery. That will have a devastating impact on your house prices.
they were work in progress names.
Yeah.
Like,
Jonathan, I'm more worried about this attitude to taxpayers' money that this reveals. You know, with the Guardian and Sadiq Khan saying,
"Oh, it's cavalier.
£6.3 million is nothing. Oh, it's just a drop in the ocean." Well, it might be when it's it's somebody else's money. This is taxpayers' money. This should be spent on stuff that's actually useful instead of just pointless fripperies.
Look, I've had a lot of Sadiq Khan's followers saying 6 million isn't a lot. So that's not right.
Maybe it's not if you're a left-wing.
Well, yeah,
champagne socialist.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look, they didn't call them the Hamas tunnels. That's a win. They could have done that, but they didn't.
I mean, 6.3 million. That's the price of your weekly bus pass. So
In Italy, we have a saying. We say it's always easy to be gay with someone else's bum.
That is not.
Wait, what's
is that a real saying?
You say it's always easy to be gay in someone else's bum.
Exactly.
What a phrase.
I mean, you really do need somebody else's bum, though.
I come from a rich cultural background.
Unless you're particularly well endowed and you can put it all the way around. But that's a fantastic thing. I'm not sure, is that genuine? That's hilarious.
You can look it up, yeah.
And it's funny, talking of Hamas tunnels and Hamas chiefs getting council houses in London paid for by the taxpayer. We've got a video of Sadiq Khan, who had a little Freudian slip this week.
As far as I'm concerned, that sort of language isn't acceptable, and it certainly shouldn't be acceptable in a party like mine that is proud to be both anti-racist but also anti-Semitic.
And we'll come back to some of those.
Beg your pardon, tackling anti-Semitism.
You just know his heart sank after saying that. And the Curb Your Enthusiasm music plays in the background.
I admire the fact that you think it's a genuine Freudian slip and not just a dog whistle to some of his voters.
You never know.
Who might be like, yeah, anti-Semitism, this is the old Labour Party back, I like this.
Can I take these off now?
You can take those off. Nobody was actually asking you to wear them.
I found them on the floor. I've had a lot of tweets saying that I'm only here for my looks and not for my intellectual contributions.
Nobody has said that.
No one said that either. But yeah, I'm a smart guy now. I'm a glass guy.
Have you been objectified a lot recently?
I have been, and I enjoy every minute of it. And anyone who complains is ridiculous. So, yes.
OK, well, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, the Renaissance painter Michelangelo was actually a white supremacist. Aren't we all these days? Plus, we'll find out what happened to this speed camera.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Ken, do you find the Union flag, the Union Jack, divisive?
In some situation, but as Simon quite clearly stated, and I agree with everything that he says in regards that there's situation when people use it for ulterior motive to cause fear, alarm and distress. We saw that with the far right when they came up to saying protecting the Churchill statues and things of that nature. But largely on the large whole, even I wave the St. George's flag on a sporting occasion. And I don't see anything wrong in raising the Union Jack or the St. George's flag so long as the intention is correct. And as he says, Mr. Brockhurst, he served for the country and he should have every right to be proud of what he's done and the way that he wants to display it.
All right, Simon, what do you make of this kind of, I would argue it as like student social media-based politics, where you get these pillocks from the Green Party or whatever saying, oh, it's divisive and I can't believe it. It will be legal in this country to do... Do those people need to get out more? I was on the streets of Stratford earlier on, an incredibly diverse place, speaking to a massive range of people right across different age demographics. I couldn't find a single sausage who said to me that they thought that this guy from the Green Party was right.
He obviously has absolutely no attention from anybody, and this is his way of finding attention. Both Ken and myself, we both agree that nobody should use any symbol of national identity to offend others deliberately, because that's just inflaming a situation. There's so much sensitivity around so many things today, and people do get offended by so much so quickly without any rhyme or reason.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Kirsten Blessed is coming up, but first, let's see what happened when that lady decided to show off her athleticism. Don't worry, she was fine. The window wasn't. I know that I said she was a speed camera before. That was incorrect. She is not, in fact, a speed camera. And I certainly don't want to see her do any flashing. Anyway, nice. I'm impressed you got airborne, to be honest. But it's time now for Kirsten Blessed. Me and my brilliant panel will look at 3 big stories of the week and decide who are the week's winners and who are the losers. Now, Valentine's Day was celebrated far and wide, as it is every year, but a care home has come under fire for allowing its local funeral directors to hand out Valentine's Day cards to residents. I mean, nothing says I love you like 20% off your own funeral costs. Now, is this cynical or just an example of carefully targeted marketing, Susie?
Well, I'm actually a bit jealous because those old people got one more Valentine's card than me.
Oh, no.
You got 0 cards?
I got 0 cards.
I don't believe that
and
for a
they're
second.
moaning. They're moaning. They got a card.
Yeah.
And you got 10% off.
But was it... but it was from a funeral. It was from a funeral.
Do you know beggars can't be choosers? Right? So you got 10% off. Shove it. Sorry. Done.
Nicholas, what do you make of this?
I mean, it's a tricky situation.
Yeah.
One funny thing is that the actual funeral director's company has apologized, said they were misguided, it was misjudged. But the care home has defended that. They said they're part of the community, they serve us, they send us blankets and all that.
And they've also said, listen, these people have got a couple of months left, so it's a good deal. We are actually saving them some money.
Maybe they should have sent the Valentine's cards to their heirs and next of kin, because they will be burdening the costs anyway. When I was younger, I remember an Italian municipality had decided to release some affordable graveyard plots.
Right.
And they had made a similar mistake. Anyone in their database above a certain age, they have singled them out and sent them all these wonderful offers, which was interpreted rightly as a gaffe, which begs the question, I don't want to be insensitive or anything, how can a funeral company advertise? Because you certainly can't count on walk-in traffic or word of mouth.
You could get one of those things that goes behind a plane, flies along.
One of those big inflatable guys, the Grim Reaper with like a... Whoa.
Yeah. What about a motion-activated coffin that pops open every time a car drives
Kills
past?
an OAP every time they walk past. Yeah, I mean, what do I think? I think it's targeted marketing. They could have gone to much more macabre places. They didn't go to a hospital. You know, I think they were just being... I think they say they were being nice and they do it all year round with other things, but who knows? Who knows?
Okay.
In this wacky world, they need a haircut.
We're going to say blessed, not cursed. And children, moving on, children in a Spanish town have been parading around in suspenders and dancing suggestively. But because they've got pride flags, nobody got arrested. Let's have a look at the video.
Oh, no.
I mean, this is pretty shocking. Those are, apparently the kids are 9 and even younger, and they're clearly wearing fetish gear. They've got stocking suspenders. Oh, God. They've got, you know, those sort of cross the electric tape over the nipples. I mean, Susie, I'm genuinely worried that by broadcasting this, we're breaching some sort of child sexual exploitation laws.
We're on a list now.
I thought that was a Madonna concert.
Could have been. You're about 70 years out.
Yeah, it looks like one. Do you know what? I don't know where you got this clip. It is disturbing. It is disturbing, but where did you get it? Is it really in Spain?
No, I got it off Twitter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's definitely real then. Not sure.
I think the real question is, why is Nicholas hard? That's what I want to know.
I totally deny that.
Yeah. There must be a saying in Italian.
It's easy to be hard with someone else's kid.
I was thinking more like, tonight, Jonathan, you sleep with the fishes.
No, the reason I'm hard is because I'm already thinking about the next story.
Exactly.
The Sistine Chapel and all the nudity, white supremacist nudity we are about to see. But
quite right.
This, what I captured on this one, that little biscuity thing, I don't remember the English word.
Biscuity?
Yeah, the Ostia, the masses. I think they were also committing a sacrilege as well to add insult to injury.
Was this some sort of pride parade / communion?
I think they're mocking probably Christianity.
All right,
as well.
They're not just multitasking by getting a pride parade and some sort of Catholic ritual out of the way at the same time.
They're saving their promotion budget by committing sacrilege and mocking the Christian faith and doing their LGBT parade as well.
I mean, it's interesting we mention religion because I feel that, on a serious note, this is serious stuff. We're seeing a sort of slippery slope. For a while, people have said, oh, the slippery slope idea, that's queerphobic or homophobic or whatever. But, I mean, what on earth is this if not, some way down the slippery slope?
Absolutely.
We're seeing paedophiles trying to sort of rebrand themselves as MAPs, minor-attracted people, to try and, have it more accepted by society. Obviously parts of the Labour Party were involved in the paedophile information exchange network back in the day. So this is something that's been with us for a while. And I feel that, for paedophiles these days, maybe 40 years ago, they'd go into the Catholic Church to have that sort of that power structure and access to children. Whereas now, they go into...
Work for the BBC, I get it. Allegedly, for God's sake.
But
Hire me.
it's true, because once your slogan is love, then where do you stop?
Yeah.
So those original, conservative or conservative-minded people who initially opposed gay marriage are being proven vindicated. People like even Barack Obama and Joe Biden at some stage.
Well, it's scary times for sure, and certainly that video raises a lot of questions. Moving on, charities depend on volunteers, often kind-hearted retired people giving their time for free because it's a cause close to their heart. But the Multiple Sclerosis Society fired 90-year-old volunteer Fran Itkoff after 60 years of service, after they say she breached their diversity and inclusion guidelines by asking what pronouns are. Gender ideology is tough enough to get your head around at the best of times, but poor Fran is 90. She just wanted to help people out because her husband suffered from multiple sclerosis. But the MS Society's diversity and inclusion representatives turned around and said, sorry, this is an inclusive organisation. You have to leave. I mean, this is ridiculous. Susie, I grew up in the 80s. We had 2 genders, we had 4 TV channels, and that was complicated enough. We needed 2 TV guides for that. Now there's like 600 genders and 600 TV channels.
But I've got a funny feeling. This is one of those people that work for you, just think, we've got to get a reason to get rid of her, we've got to get a reason to get rid of her. And then suddenly she's like, sorry, what's this he, she? Out. And you're just like, thank God she's gone.
I mean, she's 90.
She is, but
she's 90.
know,
Surely you don't have to wait too long for her to retire.
I don't know. I'd like to think it was just any excuse. They're just sitting there waiting for her to do something. They go, there we go, we got it.
Pronouns. We've got her on pronouns.
Yeah, we got her on pronouns.
I'm not so sure, Nicholas, because I've seen so much of this, Jonathan. So many times people are getting fired for either questioning gender ideology or, in this case, just not knowing, just not understanding.
Exactly. It seems particularly pernicious because she didn't even speak out or say anything that could even be construed as transphobic or anything. She essentially just asked what it was. So if anything, she was just trying to find out.
Yeah.
So that seems very cruel. So maybe she was just like, putting the cat in the microwave and confused and didn't belong in the office anymore. But God bless her. She seemed like a lovely person. And
yeah.
Sad.
And if she wants,
it was my grandma.
If she wants to volunteer here, or if she wants to volunteer at my house, I've got some curtains need cleaning. Fill the days like that. But I feel like wokeism is just a new class system. There's all these rules you have to learn. The gender ideology is incredibly complicated, and it changes all the time as well. So unless you've got the sort of time and resources to dedicate to reading The Guardian and keeping up on whatever trends there are, then you're going to fall foul of it. So it's really just for elites to sort of stay ahead of
it.
And
it shows a priorities as well. They'd rather not have somebody volunteering who's been a volunteer for years, for decades, because they didn't go along with the DEI stuff. So they've shown their priorities there. Like, it's not about helping people, it's about, no, you follow the rules.
Yeah, and we're seeing it across so many organisations, the diversity, equity and inclusion. And quite often people who've been fired are winning big payouts. We saw, Lloyds Bank fired a guy who asked a question in diversity training. Do you think Fran should sue the MS Society?
Oh, do you know, I really hope she does. I really hope she does. That's what you've got to do, though. You've got to, stand up. She got confused. She didn't know. She's like, he, she, what? So cruel. It's so cruel. She's 90.
It's so sad when you see elderly people who are not, understandably, quite up to pace with the latest delusional fad. Vogue.
This has happened to me. So I wear like a Marlene Dietrich suit, right? I'm not. I'm a she, right? But this old lady came up to me in church and she went, "My niece is like you," and I was like, "Right? I think you'd like me what?" And she went, "She's like that. Good for you. Good for you." And I thought, oh, she's so sweet. She was trying to be all-inclusive and, like... But I thought, no, I'm just wearing a man's suit.
So she
bless her. Like, she was really old and she was trying.
Your niece is...
She thought that I was trans. She was like, my niece is like you, because I was wearing a man's suit.
Right.
Yeah, and I just thought, oh, bless you.
I'm surprised you didn't knock her out. Anyway, next on the Saturday... Next on the Saturday Night Showdown, the Renaissance painter Michelangelo was actually a white supremacist. So we'll find out about that. Plus, we'll find out what happened to this speed camera. And yes, it is a speed camera this time.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney. Weekdays from 3 p.m.
Or they're trying to make it better, or they're trying to make it slower, a lot slower. Slower enough, in fact, for it to sufficiently allow the boats to start coming in to cause further political damage to Rishi Sunak.
Which it will do if it carries on.
Of course it will. And this is the Labour peers, the Lib Dem peers, and no doubt some of the Conservative wets, banding together, causing political damage to Rishi Sunak. And the longer it goes on, the worse it will be for the Conservative Party.
There's now a deadline on the Rwanda plan. It's got to start working this summer to have any electoral benefit for Rishi Sunak, because of course if the election is in November, by then the crossings will slow down. It's got to be up and running by about May or June, and then they'll take it from there.
Cool. And you have a crumb of comfort for us. Rishi Sunak met a Prime Minister.
Well, a crumb of comfort for those who want to stop the boats, certainly, or we'll get towards it. The PM today met Alexander De Croo, who's a Belgian Prime Minister. They've agreed a UK-Belgium law enforcement cooperation agreement. In short, that is a focus on surveillance and information, ultimately, which should help stop the boats. Not many boats make crossings from Belgium, but it's the kind of, they can hopefully use law enforcement. These are the kind of deals which Sir Keir Starmer's talking about. If he becomes Prime Minister, he'll do more of these deals with countries on the continent, and this shows that the Tory PM can do them too.
And there may be intelligence sharing of crime gangs that operate within Belgium. As you say, it's a much, much further distance, much more perilous across the North Sea. Very unlikely that people will be leaving in any great numbers from Belgium. But nevertheless, is this of note, or is it a token victory against the backdrop of domestic loss?
It's interesting they can do it with Belgium and not do it with the European Union, because so far we've been told the returns agreements can't be agreed with individual countries because they've got the European Union to talk to. Maybe this deal can be mirrored with France, and that might help with better cooperation, because basically after Brexit we're a sovereign country. We have to work on some areas more closely with our European neighbours.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Now let's see what happened to that speed camera. So So it wasn't a real speed camera, Susie. It was a guy pretending to be a speed camera with one of those little disposable flashy cameras.
Hey, if he says he's a speed camera, he's a speed camera.
He
don't you?
identifies as a speed camera. So,
Who are you to judge?
But then I identify as going at 30 miles an hour, so he can't flash me. Anyway, nothing screams white supremacist patriarchy like the 16th century Renaissance masterpiece, The Creation of Adam, by sculptor, painter, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Michelangelo. American academic Robin DiAngelo, no relation, has said, "The single image I used to capture the concept of white supremacy is Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel God creating man. You know, where God is in a cloud and there's all these angels and he's reaching out and he's touching. I don't know who that is, David or something, and God is white and David's white and the angels are white. That is the perfect convergence of white supremacy, patriarchy, right?" Now, Nicholas, you're Italian, so I'll start with you.
Yeah, where do I start? I mean, this is my favorite story. It's not a new talking point of the woke. They keep saying that classical art generally is a symbol and manifestation of white supremacy.
Yeah.
And this might be the only time that they're actually right. Because when you look at it, in the white world, we've got the Colosseum, we've got the Roman Imperial Forum, and we've got the Sistine Chapel and all that. And other civilizations have the wooden masks and the mud huts, and we have got the opera, they've got didgeridoo and vuvuzelas. So, I mean, I can't find fault with the grievance. When you go to the opera, you know, I've gone to the opera. I've seen Korean composers or Japanese conductors who come all the way to Europe to learn. I've never seen a Japanese or Korean to go to Australia to learn didgeridoo. And the woke left waited for a while for the rest of the world to catch up in terms of the art. When it didn't happen, they invented conceptual art. They went to Jackson Pollock and said, "Oh, do you mind?"
They sellotaped a banana to the wall.
And Marina Abramovich putting a post-it for every lover she's had in that tent. You know, just me and you can do that. Every silly BBC boss I've had a reprimand from.
Don't have enough post-its for me, sorry. I'd have to get one of those multi-pack ones with the different colours.
At the end of the day, what was Michelangelo supposed to do? In a predominantly white country, drawing God, Adam, and angels. Even in, for example, if you look at the Middle East, or I'm sure many other cultures where people are not necessarily white or very pale, white represents purity. If you look at their proverbs, you have that. You know, you say we want to get out of the darkness. It's a dark chapter in our... This is ingrained with our culture and with our understanding of the world around us, with our...
I'm not sure it goes as deeply as that. I think you touched on it just in the fact that, you know, it's 1512 that this painting was done. It took 4 years. And it was done in Italy, which would have been, you know, a predominantly Italian, ethnically Italian country in 1512. It wasn't the United Colours of Benetton back then.
We cannot judge people. He was perfectly right, as we just established. But you cannot judge people by our modern moral compass. Never mind, our moral compass is quite perverse nowadays. But if you hear some other opinions, Michelangelo, for example, he didn't believe in body positivity. If you look at all his statues, he believed that fat women are not beach body ready. I mean, I'm sure...
Not like Rubin. Rubin was incredibly body positive.
Yeah, but who would you pick? You know, Leonardo da Vinci, he believed that not every woman has to be believed. He believed that sometimes women are capable of lying.
Well, if only they'd had Twitter back then, we could have cancelled Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, There's still time. We should cancel him. To me, it looks like a little gay bar of like an old gay going, ooey, and him going, a bit old for me.
There's a little spark. Yeah, he's walking across a nylon carpet.
Yeah, exactly. I think we were reading too much into things in the past.
Yeah. And do you think Robin DiAngelo is reading too much into this by saying, you know, this is the perfect representation of white supremacy? Because I just feel like people are scratching around to find the supply of racism isn't keeping up with the demand, so they're having to scrabble around to find things that aren't racist and call them racist.
She's got a great name, Robin DiAngelo. She should be a singer.
Yeah.
Sounds like Robin DiAngelo, you just won 2 Grammys. Yay!
Well, hopefully her singing will be better than her politics. She is white, by the way, Jonathan. She's another one of these white people who goes around accusing other white people of racism and you know, thus creating more racial divisiveness in the world.
Fair enough. Well, I think the reason why she really doesn't like that painting is because within the painting, you actually see God in his chariot. It's actually it's a cross-section of a brain, of a human brain, the shape of it. So the idea is, within that picture, it's God giving the spark of consciousness to mankind. But because it's half a brain, she actually feels intimidated because she doesn't have that.
Wow. Slam.
Look, it's a half brain, see?
Slam there.
Also, it's not real. It's a painting.
No, it is real. It's more real than real.
That's what God looks like. You see in different religions, like there's the Black Israelites. Their version of Jesus looks like the guy from Street Fighter. You know, he's a black guy. I think everybody, you know, whatever the ethnicity is of your religion, you sort of make your gods.
I mean, my friend
that
only
colour.
watches The Chosen because she fancies Jesus. I mean,
Right.
you can't get more like.
Sacrilege.
Yeah, do you know? Just like, oh, he's really hot. I'm like, that's God.
Oh, that's a good point, though. You never get an ugly Jesus.
Well,
do you?
exactly. So if people are going to get politically correct about it, then you need to get a really ugly Jesus and then see if you still
When
like
somebody's so ugly, you actually go, Jesus! when you see
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
Right, well, we've all heard of a footballer having a stinker, but have you heard of a fart at the darts? The world of pro darts has been rocked by two players accusing each other of repeatedly letting rip during a Grand Slam match. Former world champion Gary Anderson has denied farting whilst playing Holland's Wesley Harms. The Dutchman, or Dutch oven man, claimed that it'll take me 2 nights to lose this smell from my nose, was met by Anderson, who said, you can put your finger up there and there will be no smell. I thought he dropped a load. It was dirty. It was a stinker. Now, have you ever... is there an Italian saying for this? I feel like there must be.
Yeah, I don't have anything off the top of my head. But last time I was on Headliners, there was a story about a passenger on an American domestic flight
Who
being
had to be
accused of-
removed.
Yeah, and that story happened to me, and now you started with me, so I'm noticing a pattern here. But all I can say is that in a week that American football gathered a lot of attention, even from outsiders, because of Taylor Swift's presence. Dart is not doing itself a favor by, ending up in the headlines for this story.
Yeah, so it's not quite as sexy as the sort of Taylor Swift association.
The publicity campaign.
But do you think it's a good tactic as a sports person to sort of let rip at a certain point, to play that sort of psychological
It's
power
brilliant.
game?
I love fart humour. But the worst thing is I was getting in a lift and someone had dropped a bomb, dropped one.
Yeah.
And I was in there, like, dying, and then someone got on the next level.
And they thought it was
They thought it was me.
Oh,
and I'm there and I'm just like...
That's wrong on so many levels.
Hey,
not mine. That's Tony, our floor manager.
I know what he means, because I
knows
couldn't get it
how
out
to
of my
press your
throat.
buttons.
You know that farty throat feeling? When
No.
you, like, smell a fart and it goes into your throat?
You swallow it.
Yeah. You swallow it. And then I started thinking about, where did it come from? Was he good looking? Was he ugly? Is that better?
It'd be better if he's good looking, yeah.
Not philosophical.
Is that better? That's an interesting philosophical question.
Call in.
Is it?
Exactly. Tweet us now.
Do farts smell better from good-looking people?
People pay good money for that, allegedly.
I don't know if that is good money.
Who farted in a jar?
I think it was Andrew Doyle, wasn't it?
But people have done that. People have farted. I saw something. I was tempted to cover it today, but I thought it'd be too much.
Here we
Too
are.
much farting. But there's a woman saying, listen, sex workers deserve respect. Don't disrespect me just because I fart in a jar and sell it.
There you go.
Yeah, or fart in several jars, because she's done it more than once.
Look, it's an honest living. What can we say?
Is it?
No, I don't think so.
I mean...
Well, technically, this guy, Darren Webster, he denied farting. So according to the international rule of darts, he supplied it. So I don't know. Here all night.
Is that the rules?
It is.
The rules of farts. Anyway, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, climate change is racist and the sun is homophobic. Find out why next, and we'll find out what happens to this chap.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Farage, Monday to Thursday from 7 p.m.
Lots of people have different ideas, but principally, a conservative approach to getting growth is to reduce taxes so that people, ordinary people and businesses, can spend more of their own money to invest and grow the economy.
So the theory is that you cut taxes and that then pumps more money into the economy.
Exactly right. And then people, it's not government that are creating wealth. It's individuals, businessmen, companies that create wealth. It's the private sector that creates wealth, that the public sector then taxes and spends.
I get the theory, but one of the criticisms of you, and I think one of the criticisms actually of all political parties, is they appear to be incapable of cutting government spending.
That's the key. I mean, and I think when I look back, is that we should have had a credible plan to reduce the increase in spending. Now, that's often a difficult concept to explain.
But it's in line with inflation, etc.
That's all right. So when you're slowing the increase, it means, one year you spend £100 and the next year you spend maybe £101 as opposed to going up to £110. So the actual level isn't going down, but you're slowing the increase. And that's very much what I tried to do. And actually, looking back, the one thing I wish I'd done, was to present a credible spending plan at the same time as the tax cuts that we announced.
You had a go, it didn't work out for whatever reason, and that analysis will go on for some years to come. We have Jeremy Hunt there as Chancellor now, hinting quite strongly now there won't be any tax cuts, but the truth of it is, under 14 years of Conservatives, for a variety of reasons, the tax burden has risen.
That's right.
To the highest since the Attlee government, way back in
80 years,
1951, whatever it is.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together. For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Now let's see what happened to that fella from just before the break. Oh my God, I've had a can of Tennent's do that a couple of times. You know, it's been kicking around a little bit, shaking up.
It was that dart player, wasn't it?
yeah. So that was in a brewery. I think he was trying to arrange some sort of event where people get drunk. But yeah, that's. Have you ever?
It reminded me of my first time, actually.
First time doing what?
Oh, just exploding out of nowhere. That got crude real quick.
Yeah.
Join us next week.
Please do. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Assistant Health Secretary of the United States, Rachel Levine, who said climate change affects black Americans more than white Americans. Have a listen to this.
Hello, I'm Admiral Rachel Levine. This Black History Month, I'm pleased to partner with OMH in advancing better health through better understanding for black communities. Climate change is having a disproportionate effect on the physical and mental health of black communities. Black Americans are more likely than white Americans to live in areas and housing that increase their susceptibility to climate-related health issues. And 65% of black Americans report feeling anxious about climate change's impact.
There seems to be a trend recently of white people telling us how black people feel while claiming to be anti-racist. And when I say recently, I mean over the last 15 years or so. I mean, what on earth is going on with this? This is surely climate change is an equal opportunities thing. You know, if the climate warms, everybody feels that.
I feel like the really pasty-skinned white people are going to suffer the most at the beginning because they're going to be.
If anybody's going to suffer, it's going to be redheads. They're going to be the first to burn to a crisp.
Yeah, but he's also telling women how they feel. This guy.
Yeah.
Woman. Hello. His voice though. Hello.
Because of course that is That is the highest-ranking trans official in the US government, I believe.
He's
That's
not
the
a
4-star.
trans official, he's a woman.
4-star, yeah, genuine, real woman, as you can tell from the fact.
What was his voice? Hello?
Yeah, that's what women sound like.
I know, yeah.
I just tend not to listen.
You
when women
should know,
speak.
of all people.
But do you swallow this? I mean, it seems like this is...
Do I swallow that? Definitely not.
Maybe that was the wrong phrasing, especially after what Jonathan was saying. But this idea, and this also seems to be almost constructed in AI. It's like they've hit everything. They've got a trans woman, they've got climate change, they've got racism, they've got homophobia, probably. Yeah, you've got like a full house, pretty much.
What's going on with the background, though? Is that like some African colours to make it seem like that we're like down and like...
Because it's Black History Month. So
So we've
that's
got
how...
a white man telling people how they feel.
With some quite patronising sort of
Great.
Ladysmith Black Mambazo album cover artwork.
Do you reckon there's anyone who watches that and is genuinely like, oh yeah, that's actually, this is a really, really good point. I must act. Like, no one goes for it anymore, do they? Do they? It seems like a caricature of some kind of...
I mean, if it's true, then they can do something about it. Stop telling us about it. Do something about it.
Do they actually
They're in
make
government.
any arguments as well? They said, well, you know, this many people believe this, but like, do they actually give the reasons why? Like,
well, they say I think it's to do with poverty. Part of it is poverty. So apparently, ethnic minority people are more likely to live in poverty, so they can't afford air conditioning. Right. So they get more negatively affected.
Well, I guess there is some sense in that, but it's not a racial thing; it's an economic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, you need to establish who lives near the coast. Of course, you've got Louisiana and all that. And I don't know if I commit the sin of racism if I say black people are not exactly big fans of swimming with the raising of the tides. But on the other hand, you have a lot of celebrities in Malibu with their villas who are also at the risk.
Well, this is one of the things about climate change that makes me suspicious of it, is the fact that a lot of the people who shout the loudest about climate change have bought villas, as Nicholas says, on the coast. It's like, surely you at least 50 metres.
You must have done
50 metres from the coast.
Yeah.
You know, if you really believe that sea levels are going to rise, you don't want your insurance premiums to go
Or they're
crazy.
so rich they don't care. It's like, I'll get another one.
In America, they have failed to establish which white people are supposed to pay reparations to which black people, because who descends from slave owners, who was really some black people came after slavery was done, some black people used to be slave owners themselves, some white people came after slavery was done. So if they establish that climate change is racist, then they can tax everybody to compensate black people who are more negatively impacted.
Right, yeah.
Call me cynical, but...
well, yeah, and that's where this is heading.
Call him
really.
cynical.
But the reparations, the whole idea of reparations is a sort of double-edged sword, because they're sort of saying, white people are responsible for the deeds of white people 400 years ago. But if they're saying that, then they're also saying that white people can take ownership and feel proud of the achievements of
Well, I painted the Sistine Chapels. That was one of my contributions.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think, the US government putting out videos like this at a time when, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, all these other states are sort of making angry noises against the West and either attacking other countries or attacking the West. We've seen US soldiers killed in Jordan. We've seen ships bombed in Yemen. Obviously, Ukraine has been invaded. To then put this up as an example of a 4-star general, I mean, Putin must just be rubbing his hands with glee, pointing at this. It's perfect propaganda.
Yeah.
Doesn't strike them with a lot of shock and awe looking at this kind of 4-star general. And as a comedian, it's also a travesty, because it is all fun and games when you have funny news that lends itself to comedy. But when you have stuff like this, it's genuinely, as Susie was suggesting in the break, it's genuinely difficult to come up with anything funnier than this reality. So it's quite annoying, isn't it?
It does. I mean, it looks like a Saturday Night Live sketch. It's impossible to satirise because it's already there. Anyway, right up next, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. What have you got for us this evening, Mark?
Well, Leo, what a brilliant show. You kept us entertained. I'll pick up the baton at 9. Should Richard Tice do a deal with Rishi Sunak to keep Labour out of power? Plus, I'll be dealing with the BBC's terrible behaviour and treatment of Steve Wright, late great radio DJ. He should have had a job for life at Radio 2. And one of his pals has said he died of a broken heart this week. And, in my big opinion, Prince Harry has offered to be a temporary helper in the palace as King Charles battles his health woes. I always thought, Leo, that Prince Harry would be a useful tool.
But does Prince Harry not know that King Charles actually has some staff already who can do things for him and probably do them a bit better than Prince Harry would?
I think so, without having someone moaning the whole time about how terrible their life is. So there you go, I'll be dealing with Prince Harry, looking forward to that. And so much more. We've got my top pundits and tomorrow's papers. It's going to be a busy 2 hours.
Sounds absolutely fantastic, Mark. So stay tuned for Mark's show. And also later on tonight, there's Headliners at 11 p.m, which is 3 comedians going through the next day's news stories. So stay tuned for that as well tonight. It's your full Saturday night lineup. But thank you so much to my guests tonight. We've had Susie Kennedy, are you performing anywhere soon?
Yes, come and see Julie Birchall's new play, Making Marilyn with me at the Brighton Fringe.
Amazing. We've got Nicholas DeSanto. Any gigs you want to plug?
I'm in Birmingham with Count Dankula and Darius Davis on the 30th of March.
Amazing. And Jonathan Cogan, have you got something to plug?
Yeah, got gigging all over, but every Friday I run a show in Clapham called the Clapham Comedy Cave, so come down and have some fun.
I've headlined that. It's a great show. Anyway, see you again next week and have a great weekend. Goodbye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. I'm Craig Snell. We're looking ahead to Sunday. It's certainly going to be the best day of the weekend. For many of us, it should be drier and brighter. Before we get there, we'd have this weather front to move across the UK, but you can note the winds are coming in from the southwest, so it is going to be a mild night, and that will continue into tomorrow too. So we have this area of rain. Some of this rain will be heavy, especially across parts of England and Wales. Some poor travelling conditions if you are travelling overnight tonight. But behind it, it does turn a little bit dry with some clear skies, but also the risk of a few showers. But for all, it is a mild night. Temperatures in the south not much lower than 10 or 11 degrees. So into Sunday morning, we've still got the rain across the southeast. That will gradually clear towards the continent as we head towards lunchtime, and for many, it's a much drier and brighter day. Still the risk of a few showers around, but in between there'll be plenty of sunny spells, and for all of us it's going to be another mild day. Temperatures in the south potentially reaching 15 or 16 degrees. Having a look at Monday, another spell of rain working its way across the country. Either side, we will see some drier and brighter weather, especially as we go into the afternoon. Plenty of sunny spells developing across the country, but we will then see thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain arriving later across western Scotland. And that changeable theme continues into Tuesday and Wednesday, but all the time, for all of us, temperatures staying by day into double figures.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
When you listen to Nigel Farage's assessment there, do you feel that maybe this is as good as it was going to get, given that we had the pandemic and it was inevitably always going to be a bit of a mixed bag?
Well, I think it's a bit of a poor excuse from Nigel there that they haven't done it properly. The facts are, Nigel, that it's not worked. It's not going to work. Yes, we will rejoin. I mean, are we better off for it? Are they...
Can I jump in there, Charlie? We're going to rejoin under which government? Because Labour aren't going to do that, unless you don't think...
But I mean, it's going to be unavoidable not to join, because I think it's getting worse and worse for us. I mean, let me just say this. Are the NHS better because we're out of Europe? No, they're not, because they're not employing more staff. Is the building trade better off? No. Is travelling abroad or to the EU or staying in the EU, are we better off? No. Are we better off because foods rise because of the EU? No. Are we better off with imports and export? No, because they're taking longer. The overall result is that we're not better off. The killer point here is 57% of the public will now vote to remain. 33% would leave. Surely that's the telling point.
It depends on the pollster, Charlie, because we were talking to a very good pollster earlier who said there's no enthusiasm for any change in a year. Maybe 10 years, they might be thinking about it.
Belinda de Lucia, let's bring you in. I'm sure you want to react to what Charlie said.
I mean, who would have thought that the UK wanting to run its own affairs and making our politicians more accountable would be so revolutionary? EU Parliament voted a majority to get rid of the vetoes, the last remaining scraps of democracy that the EU had. Now, luckily for EU citizens at the moment, you know, it means a treaty change to actually go forward. But that is the mood. The ever closer union. We have dodged a federalised, globalist, international, power-gobbling, anti-democratic organisation, and that's worth more than a few trade and travel perks for a few wealthy people in this country.
Hear, hear. Belinda de Lucia, Charlie Mullins, great to see you both.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 9 o'clock on television, on radio and online in the United Kingdom and across the world. This is Mark Dolan Tonight. In my big opinion, Prince Harry is considering taking American citizenship. My reaction in just a moment, you won't want to miss it. My Mark Meets guest is the prison governor who had to deal with Myra Hindley and Rose West. Vanessa Frake had one of the most dangerous jobs in Britain, and she tells her extraordinary story shortly. In the big story, should Richard Tice do a deal with Rishi Sunak to keep Labour out of power? I'll be asking top lawyer and former Tory MP Jerry Hayes. And in my Take at 10, friends say that the late radio legend Steve Wright died of a broken heart after losing his iconic Radio 2 show.